argument is about the justice. Oops. Is about justice and closure. The Death Penalty Information Center explains that for the most horrific murders, some families feel that only an execution can bring true justice and peace of mind. An eye for an eye, as some would say. They believe that letting a murderer live, even behind bars, is an insult to the victim's memory. And finally, some claim that the death penalty saves taxpayer money. They argue that instead of paying to house, feed, and guard someone for decades, the government should execute them and close the case for good. This belief is widespread, even though few people know what it really costs in practice. These points sound persuasive at first, but when we examine the facts, a very different reality appears. The truth is, the death penalty is not just flawed, it's dangerously unjust. First, the biggest danger. Innocent people do end up on death row. Since 1973, 196 people have been exonerated from death row in the United States. That's nearly 1 in every 8 sentenced to death, later proven innocent by DNA or new evidence, as stated by the Innocence Project. Think about that, 1 in 8. Imagine sitting in a cell for decades, waiting to be killed by the state, all while knowing you did not commit the crime. Some people have been days away from execution before they were cleared, and not everyone's so lucky. Some innocent people have been executed before they could be proven innocent. As of right now, that number is estimated to be about 20 different people. If our system makes mistakes, and we know it does, then there's no way to guarantee that an innocent life won't be lost. A life sentence allows mistakes to be corrected. An execution does not. Now, what about the claim that it saves money? In reality, the death penalty is far more expensive than life imprisonment. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, death penalty cases cost taxpayers between $1 and $3 million per defendant than comparable cases seeking life without parole. And why is this? Because capital punishment trials are longer, involve more expert witnesses, and require years, often decades, of mandatory appeals to ensure fairness. The average time from conviction to execution is between 10 and 25 years for most cases. Housing death row inmates is also more expensive because of extra security and solitary confinement. In states like California, the death penalty system has cost taxpayers billions more than simply sentencing people to life in prison. That's money that could be spent solving unsolved cases, supporting victims' families, or improving crime prevention programs that actually do work. Even worse, the death penalty is applied unequally. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, Black defendants are far more likely to receive the death penalty, especially if the victim is white. The numbers are clear. Although Black Americans make up only about 13% of the US population, they account for about 42% of people on death row. That's not justice. This is bias embedded in the most irreversible punishment our system can give. Our history is filled with examples of racial discrimination, from biased policing to unfair jury selection. In fact, there are several cases of racial discrimination for death row inmates on trial right now in southern states. The death penalty amplifies that bias, and the consequences are deadly. Finally, let's discuss the biggest myth, that the death penalty keeps us safer. Research says otherwise. According to the FBI's 2022 Uniform Crime Report, states with the death penalty actually have higher murder rates, an average of 5 murderers per 100,000 people, compared to just 4 per 100,000 in states without the death penalty. And the National Research Council, in its 2012 report, concluded that there's no credible evidence that the death penalty deters crime any better than a long prison sentence. So if it doesn't stop crime, doesn't save money, and risks innocent lives, then what's the better choice? Life without parole. It keeps dangerous criminals off the streets permanently, but it leaves the door open to correct mistakes and free the innocent. So in summary, supporters say the death penalty deters crime, delivers justice, and saves money. But the facts show it does none of these things. Instead, it's expensive, deeply flawed, unfairly applied, and does not make us safer. The death penalty must be abolished because it is a broken system that plays with human lives, and sometimes it gets it tragically wrong. Imagine how many more innocent people could be spared if we choose real justice over revenge, if we choose fairness, equality, and the chance to fix mistakes. So today, I'm asking you to take action. Sign petitions calling for the end of the death penalty. Vote for leaders who support real criminal justice reform, and support organizations like the Innocence Project that fight every day to save innocent lives. Together, we can create a system that lives up to our ideals, one where fairness is never a gamble, and where the risk of killing the innocent is no longer a part of our justice system. Thank you.
That was a perfect call to action. I loved that. It was very thorough. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, and your rubric is posted. So if you want to look at your feedback and your comments, they're all available for you. Okay. Does anybody want to go next while I'm getting this finalized and submitted?
I can go next.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then need anything from me before we get started?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Can you see it, or do you have this weird sidebar?
I'm not seeing it in full screen. I do see the present sidebar. Sometimes if it opens it in a new tab, you'll need to go to the tab that it's opened up in instead. Sometimes that could be a little tricky. Perfect, there it is.
Okay, okay. Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about why universal healthcare should be a human right. In 2023, Americans spent $4.9 trillion on healthcare, which is $14,570 per person. This accounts for 17.6% of the nation's GDP. Despite this massive investment, the US lags on key metrics like life expectancy, infant mortality, and preventable deaths. And this is from a website called GovFacts. So today I'm going to try to persuade you guys, my audience, that the US healthcare system needs to change and health insurance should be a universal right. So many people try to receive medical attention and they struggle with just getting a doctor's appointment, paying for the medical help they received, or both. I bet you could even think of at least one person you know who has dealt with these struggles. And this is why I think universal healthcare would be a greatly improvement for our community. And universal healthcare coverage means that all people can access healthcare services they need without suffering financial hardship. So some of the main points that I'm going to talk about today are how universal healthcare will improve access to healthcare, reduce health disparities, and better public health outcomes. So we can see from this chart at the bottom of my screen that this is a list of a bunch of different countries and how they performed overall in the healthcare system, with 10 being the worst and one being the best. And as we can see, the US is not doing amazing. And then from the chart in the middle of my screen, you can see that the healthcare system performance compared to spending, the US has spent the most, but also has the lowest healthcare performance. So, first of all, universal healthcare would improve access overall to healthcare for everybody. First would be the elimination of financial barriers. So, as of right now, about 2 billion people are facing financial hardship, including 1 billion experiencing catastrophic out-of-pocket health spending, or 344 million people going deeper into extreme poverty due to health costs. And reducing out-of-pocket expenses, which ensures that healthcare costs do not push family into poverty. So comprehensive coverage is also an amazing way that our healthcare system would be improved by universal healthcare. So universal healthcare provides comprehensive coverage by offering a full range of essential health services, from health promotion to treatment, rehabilitation, and palliative care. And right now, the proportion of people not covered by essential healthcare services has decreased after 2021, and it's about 4.5 billion people who are not fully covered. Another big thing that universal healthcare does is it focuses on preventative care. So focusing on preventive care means that we would be going to the doctor regularly for checkups instead of going to the doctor when we are already feeling ill. So this would make everybody a lot healthier. And along with improved access to healthcare, universal health insurance would also reduce an abundance of health disparities. So this would mean equitable treatment for all demographics. Universal financial coverage is certainly likely to be better for equity than any private health insurance system where access depends on private ability to purchase private insurance or pay for services directly. It would also address a lot of the social determinants of health, which are not talked about often. So the top 10% of US households own approximately 70% of total wealth, and a typical white family is about 10 times wealthier than a typical Black family. So our money is not spread out evenly, and this affects how everyone is receiving treatment. So social determinants of health change depending on each person's factors such as living costs and availability to food. So if everyone had equal access to healthcare, then that is one more thing that we can improve in our social determinants of health. We can also improve health outcomes for the vulnerable population. And the vulnerable population is classified as those who cannot afford health insurance, but also do not qualify for Medicaid. This makes them very vulnerable to disease and infection. If we could improve these people with health insurance, then 7.6% of the population would become significantly healthier. So not only will universal healthcare system improve equality with a reduction in health disparities, but it will also improve overall public health outcomes. So this starts with enhanced disease prevention and control. With universal healthcare focusing on preventive medicines and diseases and other things will not only be caught earlier, but also much easier to diagnose and control. Universal healthcare will also reduce strain on emergency services. This is because with people being overall more healthy and know about their conditions and diseases, they would need less emergency services, meaning they won't need to call an ambulance as much or go to the emergency room as often. This will also lead to a healthier and more productive workforce. If everyone can finally afford to go to the doctor, they will be healthier, meaning everyone will be more motivated to work and will be less likely to call out sick. And this graph at the bottom of my slide shows our healthcare performance compared to spending, which we're once again spending the most with the least high performance. So we are already spending an abundance of money. And then in conclusion, accessing healthcare will be so much easier and less stressful for everyone. Everyone will have equal access to healthcare that they deserve. And the US will not only be overall healthier, but it will also have better health outcomes. From my speech, I hope everyone will at least take a new perspective on how the US healthcare system works and how universal healthcare will be what improves our healthcare system. If the US changed from a private health insurance system to universal health insurance system, money would be used better and health outcomes such as life expectancy, infant mortality, and preventable deaths would be lowered. Universal healthcare should be a human right, and in order to achieve this, we need to focus on access for all. To promote universal healthcare, one way you guys and everyone else can help is to educate yourself and those around you. Thank you so much for listening.
Such a relevant topic. Thank you so much for sharing. I love that. Thank you. Okay, and then Marin, I've got your rubric completed. Should be uploaded in just a minute.
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. Does anybody want to go next?
I can go next.
Fantastic.
I'm not really sure if, hold on. For some reason, it's not letting me share.
Let's see. So is it, oh, like letting you get to the page where you can open up, like it shows you all your tabs on a grid?
Yeah, but it's like, wait, oh, I think I got it.
Perfect.
You see it? Okay. Let me do, okay, can you see it like this?
It looks like it might still be loading in the full screen for us, unless it opens up in a new tab for you. I know it really depends on what kind of device you're on. Um, but we can see it, but it's not in full screen. It looks like you're like hovering over the slideshow bar. Um, if there is another tab open, you can go back to that grid and click on that and it should populate for you. But if not, not a huge deal if you need to keep it out of full screen mode.
Okay, would this work at
Yeah,
least?
we could work with that.
Okay. So, what if your future wasn't determined by a single letter or a report card? For most of us, grades have shaped how we see ourselves, our future, our success. But what if I told you that this system, something that we've trusted for years, isn't actually beneficial and it's doing more harm? So, grades are outdated, they increase stress, discourage creativity, and they don't measure learning. I feel like it's time to ban traditional grading and replace it with something better and more supportive ways to evaluate student progress. So everybody should care about this because if you ever stayed up late studying for an exam or felt crushed by a bad grade or felt like your effort wasn't fully seen, you already know how broken the system can feel. I felt it too, and I believe change isn't just possible, it's necessary. So my three main points is how grades increase stress and they harm mental health. Two, grades don't actually measure learning. And three, alternative assessments can promote creativity and motivation. So let's start with pressure. We've all heard the phrase, just get good grades, but that simple phrase causes a lot of harm. In fact, a survey by the American Psychological Association found that 45% of high school students say that grades are their number one source of stress, even above family or social situations. According to the Harvard Graduate School of Education, students are becoming way more overwhelmed by the constant need to maintain high grades. This pressure often leads to anxiety, burnout, and even depression, and schools becoming less about education and more about survival. Instead of feeling excited to learn something new, students fear making mistakes, they fear failure. And when that fear becomes too heavy, many students start avoiding challenges just to protect their GPA, even using tools like AI to do their work for them. This system also creates what's called a fixed mindset. A study from the University of People found that 80% of college freshmen said their self-worth is tied to their academic performance. That means 8 out of 10 students believe that a C or a B is less valuable and they think that they're less valuable because of it. That's not motivation, that's mental harm. Next, let's talk about the point of school, which is learning. Grades are supposed to tell us how much we've learned, but most of the time they don't. Grades take complicated things like creativity, effort, improvement, and squash them into a single letter. That letter doesn't show whether a student is critically learning or learning deeply. It just shows how well they performed on a test or an assignment. As Alfie Kohn, a well-known education critic, points out, grades reward memorization, but not understanding. A Stanford University study found that students in traditional grading systems are more likely to forget material after a test compared to students assessed through ongoing projects or discussions. A student who crams the night before might get an A, but a student who takes weeks to study a subject might struggle on the test and get a C. So, who's the better learner? The system doesn't care. And what about creative thinking? Many grading systems only reward the right answer, but real learning comes from asking questions, thinking differently, and sometimes making mistakes. So the solution would be to get rid of grades and, more importantly, replace them with some better options. Narrative evaluations, portfolio assessments, pass and fail systems are all options that give detailed, meaningful feedback. Instead of just handing students a letter, these systems explain what they did well and what they need to work on and how they're growing as well. At UC San Diego, students who receive narrative evaluations or pass and fail marks report higher motivation and more engagement those who got than those who got traditional grades. One study even found that students who received written feedback instead of later letter grades improved their performance on future assignments by 22%. Why? Because their focus shifted from getting perfect scores to actually learning. And the good news is that many colleges and jobs are already moving towards these holistic evaluations. So, an opposing view might be that grades are just so important because they provide standardized, objective way to measure academic performance. They say grades motivate students to work hard and prepare them for the real world, like getting into colleges and applying for jobs. But here's the problem. While grades might seem objective, they actually oversimplify complex skills and personal growth. They often ignore creativity, critical thinking, everything that is very necessary in the real world. So my call to action would be to support schools to try new ways like to grade and talk about your experience and speak up for systems that value learning over labels. Thank you.
Fantastic job. Again, something that I think is super relevant, especially within, the college environment. So thank you for sharing a lot of that information. That's wonderful. Okay. Let's see. All right, so it looks like your rubric is all submitted. You should be good to go. Fantastic. All right, do we have someone who wants to go next?
I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, my speech is set up a little bit different. My slides are like kind of in the middle of my speech.
No problem. That's totally fine. Do
Okay.
you feel comfortable with the screen sharing capabilities and how to get that on and everything? Fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Then whenever you're ready, go for it.
Okay. Hi, my name is Maddie, and my speech is called Shut the Cages, Why Zoos Should Be Banned. Imagine living your life in a cage with strangers staring at you every day. No freedom, no choice, and no escape. For millions of animals in zoos, this is their reality. Zoos should be banned because they are unethical, harmful to animals, physical and mental health, and unnecessary in the modern world. Most people think zoos are good, but animals suffer in ways that we don't see. It's important to learn the truth so we can treat animals better. Today, I'm going to discuss 3 main points. Zoos are unethical and exploitative, how zoos negatively affect animals' well-being, and lastly, alternatives to zoos that exist that are more humane and educational. So zoos are very unethical and exploitative. Zoos prioritize entertainment and profit over animal welfare. Many zoos operate as businesses, using animals as attractions to generate ticket sales rather than focusing on true conservation and education. Animals are often removed from their natural environments or bred in captivity. Wild animals are sometimes captured and separated from their families, while those born in captivity are denied the chance to live freely or return to their natural habitats. National Geographic Zoos called outdated and cruel in a new report discusses ethical concerns raised by animal rights advocates and scientists, arguing that zoos often fail to serve their claimed purpose of conservation or education. Animals in zoos are denied the ability to express natural behaviors. Captive animals cannot engage in activities like hunting, migrating, or choosing their mates, which leads to frustration and diminished quality of life. Not only are zoos unfair and unethical, but they also seriously harm the animals' physical and mental health. Which leads me to my second point, how zoos harm animals' mental and physical well-being. Zoo animals frequently develop abnormal behaviors such as pacing, over-grooming, self-mutilation, and a condition known as zoochosis, which results from boredom, stress, and discomfort. Enclosures are too small and unnatural for many species. Animals like lions and bears are forced to live in spaces that are a fraction of the size of their natural habitats, preventing them from roaming, hunting, or socializing as they would in the wild. Physical health problems are common in captive animals. Lack of exercise, improper diets, and artificial environments often lead to health issues such as obesity, arthritis, and shortened lifespans, especially in large mammals like elephants and giraffes. Now, some people may argue that zoos are essential for conservation and education. They claim that zoos help protect endangered species and teach the public about animals they might not see otherwise. However, this view overlooks the fact that conservation happens in the wild, not just behind bars. Most zoo animals are not endangered species, and very few are ever released back into their natural habitats. Educational programs such as documentaries and now provide accurate, immersive, more learning experiences without putting animals in cages. Now let's take a look at some statistics. Let me pull this up. Okay. Okay. Okay, can you see the slideshow? Okay, perfect. So these are some statistics about some pretty shocking facts I found about zoos. So over 700,000 animals live in zoos worldwide, according to the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. There are over 700 million people visiting more than 1,300 zoos around the world annually, and over 700,000 individual animals are kept in captivity. Here's a pie chart showing that only 25% of animals in zoos are endangered, while 75% are not. This highlights that most animals are kept for reasons other than conservation. This is a pie chart of elephants' lifespan. So elephants in the wild live about twice as long as those in captivity. And elephants in zoos also only live about 17 years on average compared to 56 years in the wild. Okay, so now that we've seen that there are lots of better options in zoos, it's clear that animals in cages are no longer necessary or acceptable. So my third point is that there are better alternatives to zoos. Wildlife sanctuaries provide safer and more natural living conditions. Unlike zoos, sanctuaries are designed to prioritize the animal's well-being, offering larger, more natural habitats with minimal human interference. Technology also offers non-invasive educational experiences, such as documentaries and online wildlife cams provide people to learn about animals and observe without removing them from their natural environment. So just to review the main points, today we explored how zoos are unethical and exploitative, how they harm animals physically and mentally, and how better and more humane alternatives already exist. So zoos may seem educational or entertaining, but in reality, they do far more harm than good. Therefore, they should be banned. So let's stop supporting zoos that profit from animal captivity and instead support ethical wildlife sanctuaries, donate to conservation organizations, and educate others about the truth behind zoos. Change starts with awareness, and your voice matters. Thank you.
Fantastic. Also, a super wonderful, pertinent topic with a great call to action. So thank you for that, Maddie.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get this submitted. And then I think we just have Paula left. I think we got through everybody else. You see. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
I'm not sure how to share my screen.
Okay, yeah. So at the very bottom, you'll see this like green arrow that says share, and it's pointing up in the little menu bar.
Yeah.
So when you click on that, it should open up a page that has a bunch of different tabs on it. One of those that has your PowerPoint on it, you'll click on, and then it should open it up for you, and we can see that page. There we go. Perfect.
Could you guys see it?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Imagine kicking off your day feeling stress-free and having enough time to do what matters to you before everyone else is even awake. Today, I want to persuade you that waking up early is a simple yet powerful habit you can build. Getting up early can really change things for the better, making you more productive, improving mental health, and gives you a sense of control. One of the biggest benefits of waking up early is it increases productivity. With waking up early comes more time to do what you need to get done. When you're up before everyone else, distractions are significantly fewer. No buzzing phones, no siblings yelling, and no chaos. A Harvard biologist found that early risers tend to be more proactive, goal-oriented, and strategic, which helps them succeed. They often leverage the calm of the morning to concentrate on key activities such as studying, working out, journaling, or planning their day without interruptions. According to Healthline studies, show that early risers experience greater happiness and worry less than night owls. Starting the day off without having to be in a rush reduces levels of stress and anxiety. A more relaxed start to the day can improve overall mood and mental outlook. Waking up early provides more time to yourself. Early risers tend to have lower rates of depression and anxiety, and they often exhibit positive characteristics like optimism, friendliness, and general contentment with life. They typically get sufficient sleep by going to bed early, which supports physical and mental well-being. Additionally, waking up early allows them to benefit from natural light exposure, which can elevate mood and reduce stress levels. Beyond health and productivity, waking up early gives you more control over your day. When you wake up early, you're not reacting to your day, you are leading it. You aren't being rushed by the time. Instead, you are in control of the time you do have. That first hour of the day becomes yours. You're not immediately checking social media or racing to get ready. Instead, you get to decide how your day begins, and that small act of control, even something as simple as making your bed or going for a walk, can give you a sense of accomplishment. A common reason people say for not waking up early is that they aren't morning people. While it's true that individuals have different natural sleep patterns, most people can adjust their internal clock by changing habits like reducing screen time, limiting caffeine, and establishing consistent bedtime routines. Becoming a morning person involves making small and deliberate changes to your schedule, not fundamentally altering your whole identity. To recap, waking up early improves your productivity, supports your mental health, and gives you a stronger sense of control and confidence. Try setting your alarm 30 minutes earlier tomorrow and use that time to do something like go for a walk, read a book, or plan your goals. Thank you.
Fantastic. I feel like that's a reminder that I very specifically need. So that's always good to hear. All right. Well, that is the last of our presentations. If anyone has any questions, you are more than welcome to stay and hang out. But otherwise, thank you for all your efforts for the last 6 weeks. If you need anything from me, feel free to reach out via Canvas message or via email. Also, again, if you want to stay and hang out to ask questions here, more than welcome to. The end of the semester is this Saturday, so I can accept any and all assignments that have been either missing or have, need to be reassessed up until Saturday at midnight. So if there's anything that y'all want to submit, now is the time to do so. And if you need any assistance with getting things submitted, please just let me know how I can help you. But otherwise, thank you all again for your time and your efforts. I wish you all the best. And should you need anything, whether that's, someone to be a reference for a job or a letter of recommendation, or if you want me to endorse your skills on LinkedIn, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm more than happy to do so. But otherwise, have a fantastic rest of your summer, everybody.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.